Okay, we are in day 2 of the league. The league is going shockingly well, honestly. It's the fastest leveling to maps we've ever experienced. And I think a lot of that has to do just with the league mechanic. The league mechanic gave us a lot of power. I am running Elemental Hit with the Neoprismatic Burst, which is working great. But let's talk about Master Surgeon, because there's a couple of things that are worth discussing around that. The first thing is that Master Surgeon is really clunky to use. So right now I'm trying to hit my life flask. I can't use my life flask, right? Because I can only use my life flask when I'm missing life. Which is an awesome little feature. But, you know, even if I take a different life flask, I can click it. Clicking it doesn't work with the inventory open, but... Right, you can click flasks, but you can't click your life flask. Okay, so we have a problem with the life flask, because now it's become a really cool reactive flask, but it's much harder to use it proactive. So let's figure out how we can use it proactive. The first thing you might think is like, let's reserve some life. Nope. Reserving life is not good enough to accomplish this feat. Now, one of the things I've done is I've made it so that some of my skills cost a little bit of life. Right, so you see the life number goes down a little bit, and this is done using the where they allocated skills cost life instead of 30% of mana cost. Put it on the screen. By allocating this, I tend to be missing a little bit of life quite frequently. The problem is I'm regenerating life, and because I'm regenerating life, it means that I still have that problem. What we can do is we could say we're going to use something like a Sorrow of the Divine, or you can just allocate Zealot's Oath to get rid of that life regen. Right? And now my flask will trigger. Alright. The other thing is I have this additional life recovery mod. So the way that this guy works is recover an additional 25% of flask life recovery amount over 10 seconds if used while not on full life. Well, that's cool. How does this work? Right? Because one of the things you may notice, this buff shows up right away. So one of the questions is, does this buff show up when my life hits full? Or does this buff show up when I hit the flask? Which is why we're going to go to our trusty friend Righteous Fire. And now we hit the flask. And you see that the buff shows up right away. So the important thing to note is that that means that the buff does not know how much life was going to be recovered. So this is a... This almost feels like it is as good as the mastery node. So let's look at the passive tree. The passive tree, this node, right, Master Surgeon, is flask effect not removed when unreserved life is filled. Cool. Flask effects do not queue. Sure. 50% less life recovered from flask. Okay, but this says recover an additional 25% of flask life's recovery amount over 10 seconds if used while not on full life. So the duration is much higher, right? And you can't really do any recovery speed stuff. But it looks like this mod on a flask, and I think they go up to 40%, is not very much unlike Master Surgeon. But either way, it's still pretty neat because it allows you to have the benefit of that additional life recovery over 10 seconds, which is less flask piano. By the way, I don't know if they're tracking the number of people who have very precise, you could even say programmatic precision when it comes to clicking their flask. I imagine it's going to go up this league. Because, yeah, twacking a flask every few seconds is just a pain in the ass. Next question. Does Sorrow of the Divine work with our flask? Right, so we're going to ask our Righteous Fire to help murder us. And yes, it does. Not only that, it holds it onto it for a while. Like, it doesn't do it during the normal effect, but you can see that we have the ability to sustain Righteous Fire relatively easily off of these flasks. Right now I can't sustain my flask charges, but we can use Sorrow of the Divine to double our recovery from this notable. Just seems dumb, but whatever. Right, so you can get absolutely ludicrous recovery rates if you use Sorrow of the Divine. Sorrow of the Divine is one of the more easy flasks to sustain as well, which is fantastic. So yeah, this flask is going to be actually quite potent. There is a replica Sorrow of the Divine. I don't think it is as good as Sorrow of the Divine, because Sorrow of the Divine buys us two things. One, it gets rid of our regeneration. By getting rid of our regeneration, it's much easier to be missing a little bit of life. And two, it does the flask recovery stuff. So that's fantastic. It doubles the recovery from our life flask. And of course, consecrated ground and percent increased damage. This flask is amazing. It's like a free Righteous Fire, along with 40% increased damage, along with being actually able to use your mod because you get rid of your life regen. So Sorrow of the Divine is amazing. If you can't afford this, it was 1C when I got it. I imagine you can get one from an elk. This is like a perfect roll for 1C. I think that you even allocating Zealot's Oath just to get rid of your regen and combining that with the ability to lose a little bit of life every time you use a skill, making it much easier to trigger your flasks, right? Because you can't trigger the flask without missing the life, is fantastic. So that's where that's at. Let's talk a little bit about the leveling. This is so far what I figured out around this keystone of this ascendancy node. I'm sure there will be more, because flasks are wonky. So my all-star well leveling is this level, item level 40, that's not the right one, item level 15. This Act 1 wand is now in tier 2 or tier 3 maps. It is absolutely amazing. So let's talk about the nodes. +2 level of socketed spell gems. What more can you ask for? I guess +3, but still, really good. This has in it right now a Vortex, a Vaal Firestorm, and a Herald of Thunder. The Herald of Thunder with +2 levels just meant that we were horribly overleveled going through the acts. +1 to spell critical strike chance. Amazing. I am minus 30% multiplier, but I'm using elemental overload, so that doesn't matter at all, right? So this setup for a wand has been amazing. I used it as a blue wand for the longest time, and then later on I slapped an essence on it for some spell damage to spells, and mainly to put on some resist and some increased spell damage. This wand, also pretty good. A chance to gain frenzy charges on kill, which is really good. Chance to shock, this wand is super replaceable. I think I may have messed up some of my wands filters. I'm having a really hard time finding 1.5 attack speed wands. Other than that, item level 36. It's really bad. Item level 48. 23 fire resistance. 72 life. Pretty exciting. It's all floor trash at this point. 12 fire and lightning resistance on the implicit, and then 5% to all elemental resistance. Yeah. Anyway, this trash gear got me 2 maps. I think we are Atlas 3, right? So tier 2 maps. Some tier 3s, but mostly it's tier 2 maps. I'm running it on a 4-link. My main 4-link is Elemental Hit, level 17, Prismatic Burst, level 17, Hypothermia, level 17, and Cruelty, level 17. What is carrying this build is that wand, right? On occasion using Foul Firestorm, because why not? I'm not using Righteous Fire yet because I've just been lazy. We pick up this wheel around, let me move it over, Entrench. This is the spell suppression wheel, just for the increased life recovery from Flask. In the end we end up patting through Field Medicine. Right now I'm patting 2 nodes here. I should replace that with 1 node over there. Gives me a skill point. I did start out using Primeval Force. I never ended up taking anything in Essence Step. But we did use Primeval Force and picking up Primal Spirit. Both of these were very useful early on. And then we start the track over to Elemental Overload. Until I had Elemental Overload, I was using Precise Technique down here. And I also used this int node to help out. I also take Burning Brutality mainly for the critical strikes do not inherently ignite, and 100% increased damage with hits against ignited enemies. We have a very high base chance to ignite and shock and freeze. We do all the stuff. Right, we do all 3 elements. Elemental Overload, Elemental Equilibrium is working well. Anything else of note? Not many masteries allocated. I did notice that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 life wheels allocated. And I'm wondering if I should be looking at spending the skill points, because at this point it's 4 more skill points and I get 10% maximum life, more maximum life, and I'm wondering if that's worth it. I don't think so at this point, but if for whatever reason I want some of these other nodes, then yeah, it might definitely be worth it. Anything else that's of note? Not really. We have the reservation efficiency over here, along with Battle Rouse and increased mana, which is just great value nodes. That's where the tree is standing right now. Let's, I don't have a lot of maps, so we're just going to take a quick look at what it plays like in the feed-through. Did I ditch an important flask? I did not. So great. So one of the things to notice is that the area of effect you get on these hits is just enormous. I'm very, very pleased with the way that support works on elemental hit, the prismatic burst, because like the area of effect, it really helps with the clear. I only have a single projectile. I'm not doing any of that shenanigans, and this is just being lazy. And if we then go a little bit faster, you start seeing it like, yeah, it's not like amazing clear, but it's pretty decent. I'm happy with it. I need to actually use like my cursors and stuff, and then life is better. Pretty fast to level to maps. Super happy with how well it performed. Ooh. But I think now is the time to start respecking it a bit. Oh, what? I should have reserved some of my actual hours. That probably would have helped a bit. There's a couple of things that are clunky. This thing has a cooldown of 0.45. My attack speed is 0.6. But when I run haste, my attack speed is already 0.49, and this is 0.54. That's a really annoying mismatch. That's the biggest issue with Prismatic Burst, is that it doesn't really like the dual wielding wand playstyle. Because if you use a dual wielding wand playstyle, the problem you have is that you're just, your attack speed is just too high, even with very little investment. I don't really have much attack speed on the 3, if any. I just have haste, and that is already enough to push me over the edge because I'm dual wielding. It is nice that they show you the percentages, right? So it has like a 14% chance to deal fire damage, a 40% chance to deal lightning damage, 45% chance to deal cold damage. Right, so it's nice that it tells you that information. It also is really nice that I don't have to worry about the fact that I have a little fire damage here and there on my gear, because it removes that and my elemental equilibrium is fully functional. So that's fantastic. I am looking at Forbidden Rite as a way to just possibly play a different way and get more damage. Right now I'm trying to do the prismatic thing. But yeah, we'll see how those things work out. So yeah. Not super amazing as far as speed right now. I think that once we start slapping Righteous Fire in there and have some other things and get like the rest of the gear sorted out, get some auto flasks set up so that I don't have to remember to do everything, I think this build's going to be in a good spot. And I'm pretty excited to see how things are going to work out. Oh yeah, I also shuffled some things around and now can definitely fit another support of a spell. Yeah, pretty happy with this. The gamble of using Elemental Hit with the idea of once I find a sweet passive tree on a weapon, I can just keep that weapon, super paid off. Is that replicatable? Absolutely not. But this is one of those cases where you make your own luck and then enjoy the benefits.